I think the first thing we need to say, maybe even before welcome back to R2C2 is congratulations, man. Retirement official. Congratulations, Jon.
Thank you.
I wanted to start it off by saying I've always respected you from afar and just loved the way you went about your business and the way you carried yourself. 16 years in the league, 3 chips, bro, for me is Hall of Fame. So just coming from somebody that, admired you from across the other dugout, congratulations, bro. And I'm glad you're on this side now so we can get some golf in.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah, it's good. I mean, I've been at peace with it for a little while, and like we were talking before we started, I've known for a while. So it's nice to like get it out there and kind of, I don't want to say get it over with, but for lack of a better term, get it over with.
Have you been sleeping better not this offseason, but now like since you made the announcement?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, this like we were talking about earlier, I said this whole offseason has been like different for me, I shouldn't say offseason, just retire. Yeah. I knew for a while, I knew going into this, the big thing, like talking with my agent, talking to other guys, he just wanted me to get through, kind of that, where you get that itch point, make sure I'm not going to go just randomly pick up a ball and start throwing and be like, okay, I want to go. Mm-hmm. Didn't get it. And so that's kind of why we waited to this point to announce it. But yeah, this offseason, man, has been good. It's like that piano is off your back or whatever, like I'm standing a little taller. I feel a little bit better. So yeah, man, it's been good.
That's great.
See, when you think back to your first offseason after retiring, what's the thing that stands out most to you about just how different you felt? What felt different?
No, that's what I'm saying. Just the sleep, like being able to like sleep at peace and not know that something's looming. Like it was always like 200 innings was looming on like right here. Whatever you did, you know what I'm saying? Wherever you go in the off season, whatever vacation you go on, as soon as you turn around, it's 200 innings. It's pitching at Fenway, you know what I'm saying, in the middle of May, and it's the biggest game of the year. You know what I'm saying? So like it was always these different things that you were always thinking about when you were a player. And that first couple of months when it's like you're done and it's done, it's just great to be able to be home and really just be at peace. Like you said, standing a little taller, feeling a little better, and it just gets better and better with time.
It's interesting because you both, were excellent at what you did. But even with that, even with your confidence, there's a weight just as a performer, right? That like you carry with you. I mean, Jon, how would you kind of describe that weight of just knowing what was ahead, even though you knew it was things you could handle?
Yeah. Well, I think there's like phases of the off season, right? Like you get home, depending on when the season ended for you that year, and you've got, let's just say 2 to 3 weeks to kind of just do whatever you want, kind of just, I don't have to worry about being at a gym. I don't got to throw. I don't got to do anything, kind of decompress for 2 or 3 weeks. And then it's like, once that's over with, now it's okay. I got to start doing something. Like that itch we were talking about. And then once about Thanksgiving hits, then it's okay. Now I got to really turn it on. And then Christmas hits. It's like, I don't know if I'm going to be ready. Like, it's like Christmas is like, okay, I got to throw. I got to start getting my arm going. February 14th is going to be there in a hurry. And like Cece said, like you go on a little getaway, let's just say with your wife in January, you're like, should I bring my glove and a ball? And like, should I throw into the couch? Like what? I don't know if I'm, just constantly, I don't know if I'm going to be ready. I don't know if I'll be ready. I got to be in shape. I got to be on time. And it's just that I gotta. And then once Christmas and New Year's is over, it's like you might as well just go ahead and drive out to wherever you need to go to or fly. Yep. And spring training's right there. So it's just, like you said, there's always just something kind of just right here on your shoulder, just kind of nagging at you all the time and making sure that you're doing the stuff you need to do. And I didn't have it this year, which, like I said, I've known for a while. So I think that has helped going into this. The other part is I feel like I got time, like you're not rushing things to, like I'm doing stuff more around the house, like I'll get to that later. I would say, I'll get to that later. And then you never get to it. And now it's like, well, I got time. Like I can do that now,
And you're still never going to get to it though. And your wife's going to be like, hey, John, come on, man. You're not getting ready for a season anymore.
I pick and choose now. So it's good. No, like you kind of have that relax feel now. It's not the rush, go button,
And I feel like you're at peace too. Like everything that the career was great, three rings. Being an ace your whole career. Like you got to be at peace with that. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes I look back and I'm a completely different person 3 years removed from being a player. You know what I'm saying? Like so I look back sometimes and be like, man, did some of that shit really happen? You know what I'm saying? Like I have to go back. I like looking at highlights and stuff now because it's just it's kind of a different me now being in retirement mode.
Yeah, I mean, I am at peace with it because I think I had kind of decided during the year. The year was tough for me physically and mentally, and just the grind kind of outweighed the pleasure of what should be the competitiveness and playing for the two teams I did this year. And so like I kind of made peace with it early, so like coming in now it's just like I get to talk about it, like I get to I don't have to worry about emotions anymore and all that. So now it's just talking about it. And now I get to just be me, like I told, my birthday was the other day and my dad, said, happy birthday. You're getting old. And I said, I'm retired. I'm like on the young side now.
Absolutely.
I'm the young guy now. So it's a good feeling.
You get that junior membership at the golf course still.
Hey, that's right. I'm all up there. Hello.
I can remember Derek saying that, Derek Jeter, when he retired, like saying, yeah, I'm an old man in this game, but I'm a young man in life. Yep. And I wonder for you guys both, you both made a lot of money playing baseball. And so it's not necessarily when you're done, right? It's gotta be different than if you were done. And see, we alluded to this a little bit the other day on the pod, just, how it can affect your decision-making compared to, say, if you were coming out done playing in the 60s or 70s or whenever it might be where, hey, maybe it's like, oh, I have to do something else, just to keep making money. I'm wondering, how does that kind of like, you've been through it, John, you're about to, is there a part of you that's like, hey, like, I'm very content to just chill for a while because I can afford to do that? Or is there a spark of excitement with like other things you want to get into? Like, where's the balance between like, hey, I earned my living and I can just chill, or like, hey, I have time and I actually want to do these other things?
I mean, for me right now, I don't want to do anything. Right now,
yeah.
I mean, it may change in 2 weeks. It may change in 2 years. I don't know. But, right now, I mean, I've been tied down every summer of my life since I was 6 years old. Mm-hmm. It's been planned. We've had tournaments. You've had other things going on. So it's kind of nice to have the unknown right now. Going forward, something like what y'all are doing, something like, doing like some type of postseason thing, something like MLB, those things like interest me. I don't know where that may take me. I don't know on that sort of thing, but I still want to be involved somehow, some way. Just, I don't want the responsibility, the accountability of having to show up, like
mm-hmm.
if you were like, hey, you want to come out to spring training for a few days? I could be like, sure. And then do that. And then I'm out, kind of one of those, or pop up to Chicago or Boston or whatever for a day or two and do that sort of thing. That would be, maybe something down the road. But right now, man, I'm excited about nothing, like I'm excited about just, maybe making a few tee times and taking my boys to practice and doing all that.
Yeah. And for me, it was the pandemic happened right away. So like right when I retired, that next, I guess, offseason, we would call it, it was, we were locked in. So I got a chance to kind of like reconnect with the fam. It was, no school, no nothing. We were all in here. The kids are in here. So for me, I got that chance to do absolutely nothing. Everything was shut down. We were just only doing a pod from, doing Zooms and stuff. So, now I think that I'm, really retired. I'm I'm doing things that I want to do, like you said, Ruko. Like, I'm way more busy now, but it's just shit that I want to do. Like, it's fun, so it's not work. You know what I'm saying? Like, the busy that I am now is all on my time. You know what I'm saying? It's all stuff that I want to do. So that's something that, you know, I mean, me and him are the same in that, you know, and we have a lot of similarities in our career and everything, but in that, the way, everything he just spoke is how I felt when I retired.
You guys are also both lefties. And it's funny because we talked about this a little bit the other day, John, just with Sonny Gray and like, can lefties and righties share things pitching wise? But just because lefties also have a reputation personality wise. And if I was to say to you, John, describe a lefty, how would you describe a lefty?
Oh man. Well, most lefties are weirdos.
Absolutely.
They are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for sure. But I would like to think that, like, just the little bit that I know CC and watching him for all these years, I would like to think that me and him are probably one of the more normal lefties. You know, I think we get a little bad rap because we kind of pull our hats a little bit high. That's a little lefty thing, but I think what balances me out a little bit is I'm right-handed too, so I'm not all lefty. So I get a little, I think, normalcy in there a little bit, but yeah, man. I mean, most lefties are weirdos. I mean, they are 100% weirdos, and I mean that's fine. I'll take that. I think it's a good thing. I think there's a line though. I think there's a good line, and then once you cross it, it's not good anymore. But yeah, I mean, like I said, most lefties are weirdos.
Let me tell you something. It was a kid in the gym this morning. He's a college pitcher, and he was walking around the gym, and I had never met him before in my life, just today. And I told Dave, my trainer, I was like, that kid right there is a left-handed pitcher. And he said, no way. I said, I guarantee you right now, if we walked up to him and asked him what did he do, he gonna say he's a left-handed pitcher in college. And I called him over. He was a pitcher at Gettysburg University, but you could just tell the way he was bopping around the fucking weight room and moving shit. I'm like, but the same thing like John, I'm right-handed. Like the only thing I do left-handed is throw and hit. You know what I'm saying? So there is kind of a line there, but I mean, I do a lot of weird shit, but you can tell left-handed pitchers, bro. It's ridiculous.
How did you know? How did you know that?
I could just see like he was walking on his tippy toes, bopping around the fucking. I'm like, this kid, man, he's a left-handed pitcher for sure.
Hey, I'll say this though too, and don't let the righties get away with it because there's some weirdo righties out there.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'd put Sonny Gray in that category.
Absolutely.
You know what's funny is because we love Sonny so much, and when he was on the other day, and if you guys missed the episode, make sure you go back and listen. He's like breaking down. He's like, yeah, and I'll sit on the bench and I'll go through this, and then I'll look at this pitch design, and then I'll look at this like batter or whatever, and it's cool because I can sit on the bench and I can literally go through it all and I'm just like, oh my gosh, man, this is a lot to input here. Like, it's a lot going on, but he has the bandwidth to actually digest it all, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, he's a I don't want to say crazy dude, but he's really good with the baseball, like feeling the baseball and spinning the baseball. Obviously, we know that by watching him. But he, the little bit that I played with him in Oakland, it was interesting to hear him talk about that stuff. So he's got a little.
And he would have his game plan like 4 days in advance. I'd be like, Sonny, you don't even know the lineup. Like he would have like a game plan for like both lineups that they could throw at him. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, cuz. Like, just get some sleep for a couple of days. Like, he was already, like, on to the next start, trying to figure out everything. But, yeah, I mean, he's definitely got some left-handed tendencies.
Yeah, for sure.
Yo, do you have any of, like, superstitions that you had while you were playing that you're now glad to get rid of?
Well, so I never called them superstitions. I had, like, my routine. I like to because I didn't want to sound too crazy with the superstitions. Like I did, like, you know, the day I pitched was the most crazy for me. But like, you know, the day, like bullpen day would be the day I shave. You know, like I'd shave my head and I'd shave my neck or whatever. And then, you know, my bullpen day was always day 2. But the day I pitched would be, I eat the same breakfast, which was usually like oatmeal and like either hard-boiled eggs or scrambled eggs, something like that. For lunch would be a plain turkey sandwich with plain chips. And 2 hours before the game, I would get my ankles taped and I would drink a protein shake. And then I'd had like this whole routine. Like I had these number charts that I did. And I would listen to I would go through like an inning, like an audio inning, listen to it. And then I would end up kind of falling asleep for 20 minutes. But like everything I wasn't like Schilling or Beckett where it was like down to the minute. But, like 3 hours before the game, I did this. 3.5 hours before the game, I did this. 2 hours before the game, so forth. I would try to go out and be outside around the same time. Stuff like that. I usually threw the same amount of pitches in my bullpen. But nothing like, if I didn't get to do it, it wouldn't ruin my day. You know what I mean? Like like I would try to have a routine, but you know how stuff happens sometimes. Like you get sidetracked. Some days you got to roll out longer. Like okay, I'm going to skip this. I got to roll out. My back's bugging me or whatever. So it wasn't like if it didn't happen, I was going to shit the bed. But it was just stuff that I would always kind of rely on, especially like those big games. Like you have a routine where you have times that you're doing stuff so you keep your mind occupied on what you're doing as opposed to what you're supposed to do, in a couple hours.
Yeah. Man, I wish we'd had this conversation while we were playing because my shit was down to the minute and I had to do it. Like it was like I wish somebody would have gave me that perspective where I had like a little leeway, but like, no, it was like everything I had to do was like on point, like Schilling and Beckett.
Well, but that took me a while to understand that, like if I was pitching the day after an off day, I'd have to go in and throw when I was younger. Like if I didn't go in and throw, I thought that I would forget how to throw a baseball and wouldn't be able to get anybody out. That. And then we signed John Smoltz in 2009, and like we were all coming in on off days, and he looked at us one time. He goes, "Why are y'all going in on off days?" I was like, "That's your off day. You should go play golf, go be with your family, go to the beach, whatever." He's like, "You're not going to forget how to throw a ball." And I was like, "All right, solid point." Like, but you know how it is. You see, like in New York, like Boston's similar. You just feel like if you don't go in and throw your bullpen or don't go in and throw, somebody's going to say something about it. And you just kind of, if you do it, you take that out of the equation. And, I feel like that's what kind of led us down that road. But then I realized, there's some days like where we would fly on the off day, you wouldn't get to throw. And then you pitch the next day and you're like, oh yeah, I can still throw and I can still get people out. So like stuff with that, like that would happen to where it would kind of open your eyes through the years, or open my eyes through the years, where it was like, I don't have to do that to succeed.
See, that's the difference when playing in those big markets, like playing in a place like Boston where you come up and the goal is to win the World Series every year. Like I came up in Cleveland, and not to say that wasn't the goal, but we weren't coming close. So I didn't have like a vet to like follow. Like we traded Bartolo and it was like RAC opening day starter. Like I wasn't ready for that shit. I didn't have nobody to like, I was always looking for that. And not till I got Kevin Millwood did I understand like a routine and being able to slow down the game and just learning those little veteran things. But that's why I was so close to Kurt, because he would always come pull me out of the clubhouse and just talk to me about stuff that I had like no clue, because I was just so young and trying to figure shit out. So that's the difference in being able to play in markets like that and have those type of guys around you early. It makes a big difference.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it makes the learning curve easier. You're not doing, like you say, you're doing it on your own. Like if you have 2 or 3 guys to look to, even one guy to look to, and just go, well, how does he do it? He's been doing it for 100 years. Like, how does he do it? And just take little bits. I mean, what he does may not work for you, but you can see how he does it. And maybe one little thing that he does just helps you, keep going. That gives you that much more, confidence or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's not to get off subject, but I feel like that you're going to see that more in today's game because they are going so young. They don't have the veterans. They're not paying, the Kurt Schillings or the Becketts when they're older, or you or me or whoever, Wainwright, to be around a Jack Flaherty to show him, hey, this is how it's done, or this is how I've done it. Take from it what you want. And, like that, now you have a rotation of 5 guys that are 22 to 26 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, I don't know, my opinion, but I didn't mean
No, it's true.
Yeah, and it makes a ton of sense. I mean, I always think that, like, even to use a basketball example, like, there's a reason why the Miami Heat continue to keep Udonis Haslem on their roster, right? Like, because they know that there's value for all these other dudes to see what it looks like to fit into their culture, to work like they work, to share routine, all that stuff, right? Like, I remember even talking to Chris Paul last season, or maybe it was actually right before the pandemic, so 2 seasons ago, and he was talking about his diet and stuff, and he's like, it was when he was in OKC for that 1 year where they exceeded expectations. Everyone thought they were going to suck, right? But they had Chris Paul, and he makes everyone better. And he was like, I told these kids, like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander there and everything, and he's like, I told them my first piece of advice when they're like, oh, what's your biggest piece of advice? Get a chef. Like, get a chef, because it's going to cost you X. Yes, it's a significant investment, but you can afford it. And the value you're going to get out of that, like with investing in your body this young, is, and obviously that's one example, but I'm thinking like, I don't know, no young guy is telling anybody else to do that there, right? Like, but if Chris Paul says it and he's able to kind of say, yes, I know I've made my money, but let me tell you why this still makes sense for you now, and the value in that. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, but you need some of those guys around in order for that wisdom to be passed, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the organizations that are consistently good over the years, like I said, this is my opinion. You can tell me to shit in my hat, and that's fine. But like, if you look at the Yankees, what they did for so long, and you look at the Red Sox, you look at the St. Louis Cardinals, you look at the Dodgers, you look at the Giants, what did they have? They had a core that core, when they were young, they had veterans to learn from. Then that core became the veterans, and they're still, maybe not still there, but they were all there, and they were teaching young guys, hey, the Cardinal way, hey, the Yankee way, the Red Sox way, or whatever that is. And I feel like that's why those organizations win or are competitive year in and year out, because yes, they can afford free agents. Yes. But the free agents they're bringing in are complementing those veteran players that they have, that they've brought up or they've had in their organization for a while, that they can learn from, and they can teach these young guys how to do it the right way.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, they're like the gatekeepers of the organization. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, when I first came here, it was like falling. And I tell you that story all the time, Rico, about when I first came here, I didn't run. Like, I wasn't doing no running in spring training. But we got out there and fucking Mo and Andy running. So guess what? My fat ass is running now. It just is what it is. So you're going to fall in line, especially when it's winners and organizations that he just named. You're going to fall in line. And if you don't have that buffer of the gatekeeper, then it just starts overflowing with motherfuckers that don't have the same values. And that's how some of these organizations, end up taking a downfall.
Yeah. There's, what else too? There is also something, and I know it's a balance, but in addition to all of those, I guess, wisdom ads that veterans have, there is also value to the guys who've been there, done that, to handle the big moment too, right? Like, in addition to everything with someone extending knowledge about routine and, navigation and handling the emotions of the season, whatever else, there is also like having someone who's been through the trials and, the battles and can still perform enough at that time of year where you know what you're going to get, right? Even if the upside isn't quite as high as a younger dude, if you're like, well, I know I can put this guy here and he's going to succeed, right? And then also I feel like to help navigate that time of year for younger dudes. Like, see, you talk all the time about how much Andy helped you with navigating October, right?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, that was the biggest thing, is being able to talk to him and see what that was going to be like. Starting a game 1 in New York. And, he talked to me for the whole month of September about what it's going to feel like to be out there game 1. And when I got out there, he described it exactly how it was going to be. So I had already, been in that test. So to have that knowledge right there, I mean, and when I first got here, I was the ace of the team, but he was the leader of our pitching staff. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was the leader. Like, we followed everything he did. So to have those type of guys around, like John said, and not have those guys in today's game, you're going to see the difference.
John, did you have, like, when it comes to pitching in October specifically, which you had a ton of success doing so both in Boston and Chicago, helping bring championships to two incredible cities. I mean, my gosh, the streak you guys ended in Chicago obviously is
crazy.
just ridiculous. But did you have any particular veterans that really helped you with kind of navigating October and how to pitch at that time of year?
Yes and no. I mean, I did, but I didn't have like what CeCe was talking about with Andy. Like, I didn't have somebody kind of sit me down and go through it, because the year, like, I was still young. I think I was 23 in 2007 when we went to the postseason, and I really probably shouldn't have been on the postseason roster, but somehow it ended up on the postseason roster, and was supposed to be just a bullpen guy, whatever. Anyway, to answer your question, no, I really watched Beckett and Schilling. Like, I really dove into what he did throughout not only through the postseason, but through the year. Like, I watched, which Tito told me to follow Beckett when he first got there in 2006. And I was like a little puppy dog that just followed him around, and we were throwing partners. And, like, he took care of me, and I learned a lot from him. But, just watching their routine, and that's where, like, they preach to that to us in the minor leagues about the routine, and you don't really, you get a routine or whatever, but you don't buy into it till you see it work, right? Like, so he stuck me with Beckett, and it was like, we did the same amount of throws. If we played long toss on our bullpen day, it was X amount of throws. And then the next day was X amount of this, and we're going to do a little flat ground. And it was X amount of that. So it was like, okay, like, I'm not the guy that did it X amount of throws after Josh left, but it was still it was the same idea. So they really instilled that into me. And Schill was the same way. Schill was more of the analytics before the analytics. He was the breakdown, the scouting report, computer guy, would break down swings and all that stuff. So I saw that side of it. And then I saw the physical side of it with Josh, with the throwing and the working out and the running and all that stuff. So I got best of both worlds. But just that, I think just being observant with those guys and watching them kind of helped prepare me for that. And then getting thrown into a situation where, like, if I failed, it was okay to fail. We were up 3-0.
Yeah.
Like, Beckett's going game 5. We're still up 3-1. We got, Josh finished second to my guy here in Cy Young that year.
He should have won it that year. He should have won.
We got the second best pitcher on the planet, going the next day. So it was like a win-win for me. The only way I could have screwed it up really bad is if I only went an inning or 2 innings and screwed the bullpen for the next couple of days. So it was a win-win. And I think that really helped kind of catapult my confidence, going forward in those situations.
It was, I'm sorry, see, I just got to ask this real quick. Is Josh an asshole? Because, like, of all the
he's a Yankee fan.
Of all the athletes I've ever watched, like, when I've looked at the field and you're like trying to surmise what kind of guy they are, I'd say, like, my confidence level of him being kind of a jerk was, like, higher than anybody I've ever watched from afar. So I just have to ask, since you brought him up, John.
You know what? He's got one of the biggest hearts that I've ever seen.
Wow. Okay. All right.
But there's a but.
Okay.
You got to be in his circle.
Yeah. You got to know him.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, he's a Texas dude through and through. He's a brash. He's got something to say to you. Not something to say to you, but if he's got a little smart ass in him. I mean, he's Josh. He was supposed to be the next coming of, Nolan Ryan since he was 15 years old. So he's got that little cockiness in him. But I mean, like, I've seen him not just with me, but I've seen him with other guys when he lets you in the circle, he's got one of the biggest hearts that you'll ever see.
I can't say this about him. I've been knowing him since we were teenagers. He's never changed. He's always been the same. You know what I'm saying? So for better or worse, if you like him, if you don't like him, if you love him, he's always been the same. And like Jon said, if you're close to him, he loves you. You know what I'm saying? But he's got a little Reggie in him, cause just for Yankee fans, if you guys understand what that means.
Yeah. I had to ask, and you know what? It makes me feel better about the whole thing. So thank you, Jon. I appreciate that, man. It's
the same as, you competed against him for years, but John Lackey from the other side. Like,
yeah.
I went against him so many times in LA in the playoffs, and I hated him. Despised him. And then, like, we're best buds for life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're on the same team, and now, we're buddies for life. He's like a brother to me. He's part of my family, same as Josh. So, it's, and I'm sure the same is for me. I mean, when I got to St. Louis, the guys hated me over there. So it's probably the same.
And I was about to say the best pitchers are like that. And I can't remember who told me that. Because when I first came up, I wanted everybody to like me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And he was like, nah, fuck that. I think it might have been Buddy Bell. He was like, you just need your teammates to like you. And whoever comes over here or you go play with them, then they'll get to know you and like you. But from the other side, you want the motherfuckers to hate you. And it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So the best guys are like that. And I never really took it, like anything that I did or saw or witnessed on the field, I never really took personal because I was going to do some crazy shit too. It's just in competition. You know what I'm saying? So it just kind of was what it was for me. And, that was just the way I competed. So I knew I was an asshole and didn't really care because I knew, but I had the love for my teammates, and that's all that mattered at the end of the day.
I do feel... sorry, go ahead, Jon.
So a good, like another Lack story, like I said, my kids call him Uncle Lack. So, I mean, he's family. 4 out of the 5 days, I loved him. Even when he was my teammate, the 5th day, I stayed away from him. we were locker mates in Chicago. He was right next to me, and I would not go to my locker if he was in there on the day he pitched. I would avoid it. I would walk around. I would go around the long way and hope when I came around the other side, he was gone.
Wow. That is hilarious.
But like what he said is he goes, I'm not good enough to pitch nice. Like I have to be mad at the world to go out and compete. And that just makes me who I am. Like I can't go out there and be like, oh, hey man, what's up? Like you want to get dinner after and be good. So, just it's when you go out there, man, you black out. Like half the time I don't even remember what I did out there yelling at people or yelling at myself or yelling at the umpires until, somebody asks you about it later. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. That happened. Like go to another place.
Austin Jackson always give me shit because he said I yelled something at him and I was like, no chance I yelled that. I went back and looked at the video. Absolutely did. Absolutely said that to him.
another great human being, Ajax. So what a great dude.
Yeah, he's good people. Now I want to ask you about. I remember you being young, like the 23-year-old. You in 07, and you just seemed so under control and like out there, kind of like Andy Pettitte, like on the mound, just stoic. Like, was that, I know Andy from playing with him, he was like a duck. Like, he was calm on top, but like under, he was like panicking. Was that you kind of in a way, or was it the slow heartbeat the whole time?
I would say somewhere in between. I've always been a guy that I would rather be out there in any situation that you put me in than in the dugout or in the bullpen. Mm-hmm. Like I would rather you throw me in the fire and let me try to figure it out than not have any control over it. Win, lose, or draw. Like you put me in with bases loaded and games on the line, I'd rather be in that situation than in the dugout. But to answer your question, no, it's not slow heartbeat by any means, but I felt more comfortable being able to have some sort of say in what happened than than sitting back and watching somebody else do it.
Especially those playoff games.
Yeah, like I mean, I go from, if I'm not pitching, I go from like where the manager stands, depending on where we're playing, either down or up the stairs, into the batting cage, around and back. Like I can't stop moving. I can't sit there and watch. I just hate not being out there. Like it and you don't know what they're going to throw. You got them set up for this. Used to throw this. I mean, just normal stuff. But
Yep.
when you're not doing it, it just makes the anxiety goes through the roof when you're not doing it.
How about this, Jon? This is kind of amazing. You started your career 0 for 58 from the plate. But then you went on to become a very respectable hitter. You homered in each of your last 4 seasons. I mean, you know how much he loves hitting. He loves hitting. He'd pull his shoulder and miss starts if it meant getting 3 at bats.
Absolutely.
So how'd you do it, Jon? How'd you go from 0 for 58 to becoming a respectable hitter in the majors?
All right. Well, 2 things. One, when you're in the American League and you get ready to play the interleague stuff, they kept telling us, whatever you do, don't get hurt.
Yeah.
So I literally took that to heart, and I tried, but it wasn't like a full effort to, if there was guys on base and whatever, I would try to hit them in, but I was more worried about pitching than I was the hitting side of it. Then you get to the National League, sign over there, and you got Joe Madden and whatever. And I found out that they don't care how good a pitcher you are. If you can't get a bunt down or have a quality at bat in the 5th, 6th, or 7th inning, you're out of that game.
You're out.
So I found that out real quick, and I was like, wait a second, I'm not going to get to 200 innings getting pulled in the 5th when my spot comes up, or wins when my spot comes up. So I spent a lot of time in the cage with Eric Hinsky. And yeah. And I mean, we worked hard, man. Like, but we started with bunting, and I got a couple innings out of bunting, which was good. Controlling the bat and getting bunts down, safety squeezes, which Joe loved to do. And then just worked from there, and, got to a point where it kept me in games. And that's all I cared about, is just getting that extra at bat in the 6th inning, in a tight game, knowing that, or at least the manager knowing I'd give a quality at bat and have a chance at getting some guys in. So that's all. That's how it happened. And it just became about pitching. It became about staying out there more so than trying to be, trying to hit homers or anything like that.
Jon, we did this the other day with Sonny, and it was fun because he had an interesting take on it. Sometimes we'll ask, toughest hitters you faced or whatever. And Sonny kind of took it, and he's like, well, I think I did the 3 hitters that you feared most or, toughest. And he was like, well, these actually were the guys I love to face most. And it was kind of like a combination of, he had some success against some of them, but he thinks they're so great, and it was fun to face them because this dude's awesome. So if I just shape it like that to you, who were your top 3 dudes who you love to face most? Not from the perspective of you knew you were going to fan this dude, but from the perspective of this dude is incredible.
Stuff.
What is it?
Like fanboy stuff?
Yeah. Or competitor stuff. Either one. Yeah. Either one. This was one of my top 3 guys I love to face. Maybe okay, if a guy just dominates you, maybe it wouldn't be in there, but somebody who, it's a heck of a challenge, but you love it.
So my number 1 is Griffey.
Oof.
I got to face him a couple times when he was with the White Sox. And then the all-time greatest was his last year with the Mariners. He came back, and it was in Fenway, and he pinch hit off me in the 7th or something. And we were winning 4-1 or 5-1, something like that. And there was 2 outs, and I was at the end, and he was my last hitter no matter what. And somehow we got to 3-2, and it ended up turning out to be a 15 pitch at bat.
Wow.
I couldn't tell you who was catching. I think it might have been Salty, but they kept trying to call cutters or, change up, curveball 3-2. And I'm like, no way, shape or form am I shaking, or am I not shaking to a heater to watch Griffey try to take me deep. All I wanted him to do was take me deep. So I kept shaking because like I said, the game was in hand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is how cool would it be for Griffey to like hit a homer and stand there and do his little thing, down the first base. Like, how cool. Finally, he hits one, and I thought he hit it. Like, I start smiling. I'm like laughing at him, and he hit it, and it went off the green monster.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And I mean, the only time I've ever wanted a ball to go out when I've been pitching. And it hit the green monster, and he's on first base. He got a single out of it, and I got taken out of the game. But that was number one.
That's a great story.
That is.
Yeah. Number two, I would say, like, probably the first time I faced Jeter, like in Yankee Stadium, and they announced him, number 2, Derek Jeter, like that whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Shepard.
And then I hated hearing it after that because he raped me. No, and then probably number 3, which I felt like was always a good at bat, and he got me more times than not. But it was a fun at bat, was Cabrera, Miguel Cabrera. Yeah,
he's probably the best right-handed hitter of our generation.
Yeah. So, and those are probably my 3 guys.
That's awesome, man. And Jeter, I don't want to, you said it, but just to validate it, he did hit 338 off you, John, in 71 at bats. So I understand why.
I know, but only
you
one
only
homer.
enjoyed the first.
Only one homer.
Okay.
Not that I counted. But only one homer.
Isn't it? Do you guys always know, like, maybe you don't know the exact amount, but do you always know if a guy's taking you deep or not? Like, do you always know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like there's never a guy who's like, did he get me? You know.
No. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unless it's like one of the platoon guys or something that you kind of forget about, that they bounce around and then somehow they end up on your team, and then that's the first thing they say to you when they get into the clubhouse. Just want to let you know you're in the book. And I'm like, really?
That's always the first thing they say too.
Like, what? There's no way. Pull it up. And they got to go pull it. They got it on their phone, probably already pulled up.
That's always the first thing the platoon guy comes over and says.
Yeah.
Hey, so the Miggy numbers, only one home run.
Oof.
But he did hit 536 off you, John.
Only one homer? Really?
Only one homer for Cabrera. Yeah. 10 walks and a 536 batting average, but only one homer.
That dude's ridiculous.
He is ridiculous, man. I remember, too, like, the thing about it, when you get, like, that righty who just effortlessly hits the ball to right center field, like, as a fan, when you're watching someone who you want to get him out, try and get him out, you just feel like there's no chance. Like, when... and then I'm sure it feels that way on the mound to a certain degree, too, when a guy can just, like, by the way, John, you'll have to excuse my 4.5-month-old. She's found her voice. And
perfect.
So, it is. She's really become a big participant on R2C2 over the last couple of weeks. So,
she's your number one fan. She's cheering you on.
She is. And I'm her number one fan. So it works out. But we're gonna have to give her own, like, lav mic just to wear on her onesie so she could be a more direct contributor to the program. But I mean, there's something about, is it just me, or when there's a righty, and Cabrera's obviously Hall of Fame, top of the top, but when there's a righty who can hit the ball to right center field with power effortlessly, is that like a different level of challenge as a pitcher?
Well, for me, it was or is, because of the way I pitched. Like CC, you were that way for a while, and then kind of same thing, like reinvent yourself and have to use the other side of the plate a little bit more. But like 4-seam in, cutter in, or for CC 4-seam slider. When a righty is able to, like, take that ball in and go that way with it, like you're saying, it, like, where do you go? There's no place to go. And especially if that's your strength, the only benefit with, like, Miggy is if I walk him, he's not going anywhere.
Exactly.
So it's like, if there's a guy on, I'm going to not probably go after you, but, inning run score, depending on what's going on. Like, if nobody's on and it's like the Griffey story and it's not really a game, I take my chances at a solo homer. It is what it is. But guys on base, you'd rather just almost take that walk and just move on. I think that too, like with young guys, they don't teach enough is walks are sometimes okay.
Yep.
I didn't learn that till I got to the National League. You know,
and the lineup shortens up for you.
Yeah. You know, in the American League, you didn't want to walk anybody because you got that ninth hitter. You got that DH.
Yeah.
But in Detroit, like when Miggy was in Detroit and he was like really in his prime, I had no problem walking him and Vic back to back. Because guess what? It's still going to take a double for both of them to score. You know what I'm saying? So I had no problem walking either one of them. But like for early in my career, a righty that can go, you know, like Manny Ramirez always gave me trouble because I couldn't, like anything in, I would yank in before I had the cutter. So it was just dive out over the plate. And if they could, you know, had that power to go to right field, it was tough for me. And I didn't start getting Miggy out until later in my career when I started throwing the cutter. And then he had to go back and forth. But when it was younger, they were both Manny and Miggy. I mean, Victor Martinez, like they were really, really tough outs for me. And I like you said, I would just have no problem fucking walking. I would walk Miggy and Vic with no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, I mean, that stuff that, you know, you learned later on. Mm-hmm. You know, like when you were younger, you're like, all right, screw you. Here comes my 96 or 7 or whatever. I got you. And then they whack you around. But when you get older, you're like, why am I screwing with this guy? You know, like, what am I doing? I mean, like I said, you know, especially in the National League, like, why am I going to mess with this guy when 4 hitters, you know, I can do this, this, and this. And then I got the 8-hole, which is usually not a great hitter. And then the pitcher, you know, so like you said, the lineup shortens and you don't learn that. And my first couple times in the National League, I'm like, wait a second. Oh yeah, I got the 8-hole and the 9-hole. Like, what am I doing grinding on the 6-hole guy with a guy on second and 1 out? Like, now I'll walk you, like try to get a double play if I can. I still got another base. And then I got the 8, you know, like there's just ways to pitch around stuff. And sometimes walks are good. You know, that's why I don't like that whip crap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what's interesting? Go ahead, see.
I was going to say, you know, who helped me with that was Jason Kendall. My very first game as a Brewer, I got over there and I pitched against, I think it was Colorado, and I was just grinding. I think it was like 6 2/3, and I'm just grinding every pitch. He's like, dude, like we got into the clubhouse after, like, just throw the ball over the fucking plate and they are going to be out. And the next, like, that's why I went on that run. It was just by following him and understanding that the lineup is so short in the National League that you ain't even got to mess around with none of those dudes in the middle if you don't want to. And just get outs around them, and you'll be fine. You'll be able to get deep into the game.
Yeah.
If I were to ask you, John, who hit the most home runs off of you, do you know right away?
I know the answer, yeah.
Okay, who?
I can't say his first name very well, and I apologize to him. I'm not great at it, but it's Suarez from Cincinnati.
Yep, Eugenio Suarez. And there's one other guy who matched him. Do you know who?
Oh, it's 7.
Yep.
And it's Carlos Pena.
Yes, very
Carlos
nicely
Pena?
done. A lefty getting
the lefty?
Yeah.
I didn't have a sinker back then, and he would just push me out over, and you know he had the launch angle before launch angle, and he just kept home.
I got to tell you, John, that was very impressive.
That was impressive. The number and the guys.
Yeah.
I know Suarez won because I faced him this year, and it was up on the Jumbotron in Cincinnati while I was pitching. So I knew that one, and then I heard the Pena one a few weeks back from somebody.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
see, you know yours?
Absolutely fucking not.
You don't know who hit the most home runs off of you?
No.
You want to take a guess?
Oh, it'd probably be Longoria, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
8.
Longoria.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, Longoria hit 410 off UC with 8 homers and an OPS over 1,300.
That was a nightmare when it was Carl was there and BJ and those dudes would be running the bases and you had to face Longo. That shit was terrible. Like it was not a fun time to go down to the Trop. And you walk Carl, he get like a chopper, and he's standing on fucking third base. Now you got BJ. And then they had Rocco Baldelli was in that lineup for a little bit, and then with Longo, man, like I never had a chance against him. I told him one time, I was like, dude, I'm just gonna start throwing the ball underhand to you.
Pena was in that lineup too.
Pena was in that lineup, but he was never a problem for me until opening day when fucking Joe decided to walk the bases loaded. Opening day, I think it was 2013. He took me deep, so he got me one time. Maybe that was 2012.
So you needed to help Jon out with Pena, and Jon needed to help you out with Longoria.
Absolutely.
You know, although Longo got you 3 times, Jon, but you held him under 800 OPS and a 250 batting average. So I'd say pretty good.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
It's pretty good.
There's a lot of at-bats in there, too. So I'll take that.
Exactly. Those division guys. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, Jon, but I wanted to ask you guys this because you both dealt with it. Power lefties who then went through the process of becoming more finesse, you know, later in your careers and still having success and extending your careers. Jon, if I were to tell you, you know, you're sitting down with, you know, let's say any power lefty right now in the game, and they're all of a sudden, you know, they're 9-10 years into their career and they're about to make that transition. What would be the number one thing you would tell them about how to successfully navigate that?
Don't be hard-headed and change. You know, I think in this game, you rely so much on comfort and past success that you can become very hard-headed in change. And, you know, I wish I wouldn't have been as hard-headed as I was about it a few years back, because I think that changing to and not to say I was pitching great the last couple of years, but I think I could have honed it in a little bit more when I still had a little bit more stuff. And I think I could have got more out of it a few years ago and not been so hard-headed and still the fastball cutter in kind of BS over and over. That was my biggest thing, was just being hard-headed and stubborn in what I used to do and what gave me so much success, that I didn't want to buy into, you know, the sinker changeup away works. And then the other part is the stuff you don't feel comfortable with, like you don't feel comfortable with your changeup or you don't feel comfortable with your curveball, doesn't mean you can't throw it. You know, that was one thing I learned in Chicago with Mike Borzello. Is he's like, hey, listen, you're not comfortable with your changeup. We'll pick, if it's 2 guys, if it's 3 guys, if it's 5 guys, that the changeup is really effective to maybe try to throw it to those guys, to where you don't have to be perfect with it to get success out of it and then build confidence. So that was one thing that helped me. But I think the biggest thing is just don't be hard-headed, you know, like accept the fact that you get older, things slow down. You can't be 95 anymore, let alone 90, 91 anymore. And you need to make adjustments. And it's part of it. It's part of, everybody has to do it at some point. So it's just a matter of accepting it.
Man, that was perfectly said.
Would that be your similar sentiments for you, C?
Absolutely. And just, you know, not being hard-headed, but the regret of not, you know, taking the advice when you had the stuff. Like he said, I felt like the way I pitched later in my career, if I had, you know, if I started doing that in 2011 or 12, when I had like the stuff to do it, you know, I think the transition would have been a lot easier and I would have understood it a lot better. But, you know, for me, it was the opposite. So like I went from, you know, sinker or 4-seamer sinker changeup away to trying to throw a cutter in. But it's, you know, like you mean to tell me like this is going to be effective me throwing 88 in? You know what I'm saying? Like when I'm used to throwing 97, like, so now I got to trust that I can get the ball in at 88 and they're not going to be able to like hit that shit out of the stadium. So it was just, you know, being able to trust that this is going to work too. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I wish like I had, you know, Mac was huge in me making the transition, but I wish he was there to like actually see me pitch well and like be behind the plate while I was pitching well when, you know, the things he wanted to change for me.
Yeah.
Brian McCann, I'm talking about.
You see this? See, look at the way you've just graduated when it comes to your host abilities. You know now, you mention a nickname, you need to still give the real name so the audience knows. I love it, man. I love it. It's the evolution, man. I guess we've been doing it a while now, though, see. So, you know, you got this down. Jon, this is going to be you in 5 years, man. You're going to have all the podcast reps under your belt. You know,
yeah, maybe. You never know.
You're going to be seasoned segueing. Hey, Jon, you're great. You're wonderful to talk to. I mean, you've had just an incredible career. Yeah. I know your pal John Lackey has said he's not visiting Cooperstown until you're in it. So we will be rooting for Jon to get to go and see you in it. And in the meantime, enjoy not having that piano on your back this offseason and enjoy those Miller Lights and hanging, man.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm excited for it. So can't wait to see what the next chapter brings.
No doubt. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah,
thanks a lot, Jon.
Enjoyed it. Yeah, thank you.